What's going on, y'all? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. Time for another episode of Min-Maxing for Fun and Profit in Pathfinder 1st Edition. Today, by request, we are optimizing around the body bludgeon rage power and how to use it with as big of a target as possible. Remember, if you're liking what you're seeing, you'd like, subscribe, ding the bell. I messed up recording and had the best knuckle crack before this. I want you all to know that. Remember that Patreon gets you access to Google Sheets where this build and all my other builds are stored away and a bunch of other cool stuff. For now, let's dive in. Okie doke. So, before we can really dive into the meat and potatoes, we gotta go for the objective here. We're gonna have our dessert first, I suppose. That is to say, the thing we are building around, a rage power. Body bludgeon requires us to be at least a 10th level barbarian. Whilst raging, if a barbarian pins an opponent that is smaller than them, they can then use said opponent as a two-handed improvised melee weapon, which deals 1d8 points of bludgeoning damage, assuming the opponent is small. Larger or smaller creatures use as bludgeoning weapons. God, I'm not going to get through this video without laughing a bunch, I just know it. Deal damage based on their size using this base damage. A tiny creature would do a d6, a medium does a d10, and so on and so forth. The barbarian can make a single attack using the pinned opponent as part of the action used to maintain the grapple, using their highest attack bonus. Whenever the barbarian hits using the pinned opponent as a weapon, they deal damage to their target normally, and the grappled opponent used as a bludgeon also takes the same amount of damage. If the pinned opponent is unable to resist being pinned for any reason, like say if they got paralyzed, the barbarian can use that opponent as an improvised weapon without grappling or pinning the opponent until the creature is reduced to 0 or fewer HP, at which point the creature becomes useless as an improvised weapon. So, there are a lot of things we can take away from this. The build kind of shakes out to debuff plus. At the beginning of our turn, if we have someone grappled, we would make a check to maintain the grapple. Presuming the check succeeded, here is a list of the various things we could do with them. We're yes-anding it. Yeah, we've got them grappled, but also we've hit someone, and then we'll go to pinning them or damaging them or moving or whatever it happens to be. The goal here is to make this work with as large of a creature as possible. There are a couple of ways to abuse this up to the biggest creatures in the game. That's not what we're talking about today because I don't want to tell you a level 20 build and talk about 19 levels of we're just waiting for that one thing to go off. But as honorable mentions, 8 levels of Totori Monk plus 12 levels of the Primalist Blood Rager allows you to grapple creatures of any size by spending ki. Oh wait, those two classes are alignment incompatible? That's dumb and I hate it. But also, additionally, Arcane Bloodline Blood Ragers, when they hit level 16, can be shaped for themselves. So for a hot sec there, I thought about just, we're gonna turn into a giant squid and start grabbing up at people, but that's still just so late, you know what I mean? Obviously, if you have a high-level wizard in the party and the GM will let them polymorph any object you into a colossal version of yourself, then all bets are off, I guess. Today, instead, we're gonna cheese it to get the same results, because this is 1st edition Pathfinder after all. And because we're cheesing it up, and because we're using very corner rules, a little bit of third party, I'm gonna make a lot of rules as intended arguments in this video. I'll try to make them concise enough that if you end up playing this, you can show them to your GM. Obviously at my table they will fly. Also, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't, because there's so much scarier stuff in this edition that you can get up to, as opposed to hit a motherfucker with another motherfucker. I think I said that fast enough to beat the censor. We'll find out when this video posts. Anyway, 19 levels of Blood Rager, 1 level of Monk, 4 archetypes of all things. On the Monk side, we will be playing a Master of Many Styles for that at first level ability to fuse 2 style feats together into a greater, stronger, more powerful thing. Blood Rager has not 1, not 2, but 3 archetypes stacked on it. We're basically trading out our whole class. First, the easy one, Primalist. The one we had to take. The Primalist at level 4, and every 4 levels thereafter, may choose to gain either the power from their bloodline or 2 rage powers. It's literally just Blood Rager plus. It's one of those archetypes that if you're playing a Blood Rager, there's almost no reason to not. Next, Cross-Blooded Rager, which you would think alters your bloodline. It does not. Lets us pull bloodline powers, bonus spells, and bonus feats from either of 2 bloodlines at the cost of a -2 to our will save. Then lastly, an archetype that I've never talked about on the channel or been exposed to, frankly, the Bloody Knuckled Rowdy. replaces Uncanny Dodge and its improved variant for a bonus style feat at level 2. And then Combat Style Master at level 5, which allows us to switch into styles a little bit quicker. No damage reduction, less spells known, but we also get improved Unarmed Strike for free, which we already got, whatever. And we'll have unarmed damage as a monk of a level equal to our Blood Rager level -2. So in the early game, when we're not able to grab and pin things for whatever reason, we can still, punch a dude. We will be choosing Abyssal and Destined. Destined will grant us Destined Strike. At first level, as a free action up to 3 times a day, you can grant yourself an insight bonus equal to half your Blood Rager level on 1 melee attack. A free action when you're either punching someone or hitting someone with someone. And then Abyssal at level 4, when you enter a Blood Rage, you can grow 1 size category larger as Enlarge Person, essentially a free buff spell whenever you're raging. We're also going to be widely choosing from both rounds of feats. Obviously the spells are all good choices. You'll know what to take from there based on your playstyle. For our race today, we're diving into Dreamscarred Press for their conversion of 3.5's Half Giant. There's not going to be any new official Pathfinder 1E stuff, so at this point it seems only reasonable to reach back into the annals of drive-through RPG to pull out whatever can make your game more interesting. We are choosing a half giant today, frankly, because otherwise I would suggest a Trox. I'm pretty sure most GMs are going to turn their nose up at a Trox, which is a much stronger species than this, but powerful build. Whenever the half giant is subject to a size modifier or special size modifier for like grappling and stuff, they use the size category 1 size bigger if it would be beneficial to them. Essentially, you're a little better at grabbing people. A half giant is also considered to be 1 size larger when determining whether a creature's special attack based on size can affect them. More importantly, a half giant can use weapons designed for creatures 1 size larger without penalty. This will help us maintain our ability to swing our opponents around at our other opponents, and it's a bit of a stretch to assume that the size modifier or special size modifier for grapple, that line being is beneficial to them, assumes we can grapple a little above our size categories. So if it doesn't work, grab a Trox. But I think it's a more than reasonable interpretation of the rules, again, given that there are just so many scarier things in the universe. For our traits, reactionary, because, well, we were going to take Fate's Favored, but we're not that destined. We're only slightly destined. Therefore, don't need the buff to our luck bonuses. Rules interpretation, the second, bred for war. This requires you to be a human. If you are playing on Galarian, this requires you to be Shoanti. They were literally bred from giants in the lore to be the Thessalonian labor class. So technically, this works. Fight me. This gives you a +1 trait bonus on Intimidate checks and to your CMB because of your great size. You must be at least 6 feet tall. I bet you were. For our stat priority, we are mad as heck, as Blood Ragers can be, as Grapplers definitely are. This is another build that you'll want to break out if you're rolling for stats or on a higher point buy, or it's just a lower difficulty campaign. We want as much strength as we can fit in the thing. Everything except intelligence is not a dump stat. We cast off our charisma, we will save off our wisdom. Dexterity makes our CMB higher if we grab something that then wants to grab us. Constitution prevents us from dying, so we want those to all be at least positive if we can, and to the floor, because something has to give in this build. To go even farther, this will use full advantage of Elephant in the Room and my Dragon in the Room modifications. Follow this card right up here, because feat taxes are dumb is why, and there are several builds, again, that can do way better than we do, not having to be stressed and taxed every second of the way. So in this build, our feats with improved and greater in the chain will automatically progress as soon as we qualify for them, as well as our style feats, freeing up room for things that are considered staples, for other random things that aren't really that powerful, but just are like, this is the biggest niche that I've ever landed in any build ever. Let's experiment with it rather than have to struggle to make the thing go off. And now for our feats. I'm going to take these individually by level as opposed to down columns because, again, we're kind of all over the place. We have a copious amount of bonus feats anyway. It seems the easier way to chart the stars here. At level 1, improved grapple. This lets us grab people without provoking attacks of opportunity and gives us a +1. Our first style feat in the chain will be Snapping Turtle style. While we are in this style with at least 1 hand free, we have a +1 shield bonus to our AC. Hooray! Catch Off Guard at level 3 will allow us to remove the -4 penalty for swinging improvised weapons, and that second round of sweet, sweet shenanigans to body bludgeon a very big thing, Shikigami style. While we are in this style, we will deal damage with improvised weapons as if they were one size category larger. For every style feat you have that lists Shikigami style as a prerequisite, you treat it as one size larger. So, okay, see where we're at with this? So to track that back, we are a large creature who is treating themselves for all intents and purposes as a huge creature, post and large person. We're now grabbing a large thing, using it as an improvised weapon. There are going to be so many that's what she says in this video. This feat lets us treat the large one as huge. After huge, it's gargantuan, then colossal. All 3 rounds of Shikigami style let us grab essentially a colossal thing. The fastest way I can think to get it, and kind of the most hilariously. Shikigami mimicry and Shikigami manipulation kind of don't matter for the purposes of what we are doing. There's some dumb stuff you can do with Shikigami manipulation, truly, but it's kind of beyond the scope of what we're doing here. Mimicry lets you take a -2 penalty on attack rolls to treat an improvised weapon as if it had blocking, brace, disarm, distracting, non-lethal, performance, or trip. So I guess if you want to take the dude with the pointy helmet and turn him into a spear to brace against a charge, then that's great. Manipulation lets you treat any magical item you're using as an improvised weapon, as if granted an enchantment bonus on attack and damage rolls equal to the item's caster level divided by 4. If you had equipment trick, you could then do weird things. There are whole ass tables about that. Again, we're just here to pick up dudes and hit people with them. In the early game, it's probably pick up chairs and hit people with them, or just hit people. At level 4, when our base attack bonus reaches 3, ooh wee if we could be an Unchained Monk for that first level. Snapping Turtle Clutch, the other side of our snapping Shikigami style. While you're using snapping turtle style, the shield bonus applies to your CMD and touch AC, hooray. Whenever an opponent misses you with a melee attack while you are in snapping turtle style, you can use an immediate action to attempt a grapple combat maneuver with a -2 to start the body bludgeon faster, or to just pin people and lock them out of the fight. Get some of your friends to take Throat Slicer. Once you start pinning things, they can just stab them, and away we go. At level 5, remember, power attack is just a thing we do under Elephant in the Room. Unfair Grip gives you a +1 bonus on checks to maintain your grapple. Grappled foes take a -1 penalty to escape. So when we pick up a dude and beat a dude with a dude, that dude has a harder time not being the dude who's beating other dudes. Greater Grapple comes online at level 7 to give us a further +2 to our grapple checks. It gives us the ability to maintain a grapple as a move action, which then allows you to make 2 grapple checks each round, in case you want to do something else with your victim, or even just beat someone else up with them. The Eldritch power floating through our veins will give us improved initiative now, because if you made it this far, why not? And because it's just good. Then combat reflexes, because we can afford to squeeze it into this build. Because a bigger threat range and more things moving around us and provoking means more damage dealt with our body bludgeon victim when we're swinging them around. It's a very effective way to get the wizard before they cast freedom of movement anyway, and then just start beating up the wizard's henchmen with the wizard, taking the wizard out of the fight while also hurting the other people. It's a weird way to spread the damage around, but I don't hate it. At level 9, we'll take Vital Strike, because now that it's a move action to maintain our death grip on our greatsword man, we have a standard action to swing them, might as well get more damage dice out of them and more damage dice into them in the same motion, which lets you really 2-for-1 the hell out of Vital Strike. It's quite good. At level 10, through the powers of our bloodline once again, we will take Improved and auto-upgrading into Greater Sunder for a total of +4 when we want to do that particular combat maneuver, also not provoking. Additionally, Greater Sunder gives us what is essentially Magic the Gathering Trample. Whenever you sunder to destroy a weapon, shield, or suit of armor, excess damage goes to the wielder. God, does that mean if we sunder a dude we're holding, we hurt ourselves in the process? My head hurts. A lot of this video and a lot of the building has been my head hurts, but yes, you read that right. Whenever you sunder to destroy a weapon, we may sometimes be snapping people in half. We'll talk about that in a minute. Next up, Rapid Grappler, Whenever you use Greater Grapple to successfully maintain a grapple as a move action, you can then spend a swift action to make a grapple combat maneuver at a -5 to squeeze in more horrible things we can do. Short answer. It gets us to pinned a little bit faster while also giving us the ability to move them, tie them up, deal damage to them more than once. At level 12, improved Vital Strike comes online, followed by the thing that will probably get me demonetized for the body horror that's about to hit this channel, Shrapnel Strike. Remember this one? We built around this years and years ago. God, follow this card. Old but gold indeed. I only chose to put this in the build because we have improved Sunder for free, so why not? When you attempt a strength check to break an object that can shatter, nothing made of paper, cloth, leather, or other soft, pliable material, bones comes to mind. Oh god. You gain a bonus on the strength check equal to your BAB. If you surpass the object's break DC, you can send shards of bones flying out in all directions, dealing an amount of piercing, slashing, and bludgeoning damage equal to 1d4, plus 1 point of the object's hardness to all creatures within 10 feet of the object, including yourself. A successful reflex save, 10 plus half your HD plus your strength, halves the damage. Now, in fairness, a lot of times I think you're going to interact with someone's armor first. So if you pick up someone who's wearing like chainmail, use the stats for that, shatter their chainmail and send it flying all over the place like a horrifying hand grenade. I hate it. I hate this. This is the worst timeline. But I also really want to play this. Assuming everyone on Galarian drinks their milk, I think the fairest benchmark for a humanoid skeleton is probably stone. That may be a little generous, but wood feels weird and very vague. I guess stone kind of is too. Your mileage may vary. In the worst case, again, you're snapping their equipment if they get out there debuffed, and it also gives you a little bit of an AoE for when you get swarmed, when you grab the BBEG and start braining their minions to death with the BBEG, and the BBEG calls for help. And we've proved once again that when we treat people as objects in Pathfinder, things get real fucky real quick. Honorable mention to the spell Dimensional Blade. I'm not saying take it. I am saying if you're a GM using this build against your players, you will flat Stanley someone, which is probably very interesting flavor text. Anyway, I guess we'll take Great Fortitude, which should automatically tick up to improved Great Fortitude from our bloodline, then Throat Slicer next, which allows us to deliver coup de grace to pinned opponents for when we just aren't satisfied with fatalitying them by breaking them in half in our arms, and we'd rather just coup de grace and move on. From our bloodline, Lightning Reflex is next, which should automatically tick up as well. Gives you more rerolls, gives you the thing that Destined Blood Rager gets, while also dipping out of it, so that's fun. Next up, we'll take Devastating Strike for a bonus to damage when we Vital Strike with folks. Then lastly, Furious Finish. While raging, when we use the Vital Strike feat, we don't roll damage, we just straight up do max damage. Remember, to both our weapon, the person we're swinging, and the target. When we do, our rage immediately ends alongside toughness. Greater Vital Strike, of course, coming online at level 17. For our primal choices, Destined Strike at level 1 for a little bit of buff to our swinging sometimes. Demonic Bulk for a little bit of buff to our size category. When we rage, you knew you'd see it. Then when we start picking from the rage powers, first, Animal Fury and Raging Grapple. Animal Fury gives us a bite attack whilst raging, made it our full BAB -5. That does 1d4 points of piercing damage if we're medium, so for us, with powerful build, I guess we have a 1d6 bite. A barbarian can make their bite attack as part of the action to maintain or break free of a grapple, resolved before the grapple check is made. So a lot of times our dance here is, I'd like to make a grapple check before the grapple check is made, as part of which I bite someone. If I'm using them as a body bludgeon and the check succeeds, I then hit someone with them. I've used my move action. With Rapid Grapple, I have my swift action. Most likely, probably, just make another grapple check to damage them. Don't call it Constrict, I guess. Then use our standard action to Vital Strike. Did I mention that if the bite attack hits, any grapple check made by the Barbarian against the target has an untyped +2? That seems really important for us. Alongside that, we will take Raging Grappler. As long as we are raging, whenever we succeeded a check to start a grapple, we can choose to deal damage as if we had succeeded at a check to maintain the grapple. Additionally, whenever we succeeded a combat maneuver to maintain a grapple, we can choose to give ourselves, the target of our grapple, or both the prone condition as a free action while continuing to do this. So we've debuffed the weapon we're now dragging on the ground. I presume that's where the extra damage comes from, frankly. Then swinging it like we're Nightmare / Siegfried and Soul Calibur at folks, then bouncing it off the ground some more. It's not a good thing to do to edged weapons, but it's probably an okay thing to do to the average edged bad guy. At level 13, it does take a long time for this to come on, but it's coming on several levels sooner than a lot of other ways to skin this owlbear. Body Bludgeon, the showstopper of the build, and Come and Get Me. Everyone gets a big bonus to attack and damage against you, but attacking you provokes an attack of opportunity, which in this build means attacking you hurts someone on the bad guy's team, in addition to that presumed bad guy, which has to go into sentient creatures calculus in some meaningful way. Then, if you make it to the end of the game, Tyrant Totem from Ultimate Wilderness, I assume meant to emulate like a Tyrannosaur off the top of my head without looking at it. The lesser variant, while raging, the Barbarian's bite attack deals damage as if the Barbarian were one size larger than their actual size. This is one of the few things that won't stack with Powerful Build because this isn't like a polymorph effect. If this wasn't an EX, it would stack, because Powerful Build is rude, frankly. You can begin a grapple as a free action against any creature you hit with the bite attack, speeding up our action economy, of course, easy peasy. And there stands the feats. What even? In the optimized party, this is a Punisher. You're taking people off the board, you're doing a lot of damage. You are strangely more optimal than I thought this meme build would be. Anyway, key magic items, there are few. The big six will always be important. Follow this card right up here. The Brawling Enchantment gives you a +2 bonus on unarmed attack and damage rolls on your armor, which is wild, including checks made to grapple. Remember, also, armor spikes deal piercing damage on a successful grapple attack. See how a lot of damage can add up at once on your victim while you're also bludgeoning your victim's friends with your victim? As for our spells, a lot of our spells are very staple. We've talked about them a lot. We're not going to super worry about it for here, with the exception of two. First, True Strike. Remember, combat maneuvers are attacks. You will get the bonus from True Strike when you are starting a grab. And then lastly, Magic Weapon and its greater variant. Yeah, we understand why we want that. That makes sense to everyone? Cool. Because that's what we're going to call this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for this weird meme build, honestly, Axe. I'm just gonna say that. I presume you're watching this. Because I didn't know what to expect coming in, and it is incredibly hard to do that to me in first edition Pathfinder. What do y'all think? Throw it in the comments. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.